Hey, everybody, welcome in. It's Friday. It's a snowy Friday. The storm was about 24 hours late here in Denver, but it did eventually arrive. The Avs put a walloping on the Ottawa Senators last night. We're going to unpack that game. Big announcement this week, the Winter Classic. The Avs are going to play in their first ever in the NHL's marquee outdoor event. We're going to talk Victor Olofsson, and yes, by popular demand, we are going to unpack everything going on with the power plays, Guerilla Sports Off Ice. I'm Jesse Montano. You're going to be joined by Meghan Angley in just a second, and we've got Mark Robinson, super intern with Guerilla Sports. You've heard his voice, his face, with some other Avs content around. He'll be joining us for this Friday afternoon edition to help take you into the weekend. We got Ashley behind the glass today. Should be a great show. Want to start by reminding you guys about our fantastic partners, starting with our new friends over at Furniture Row. First and foremost, just look at this beautiful set. That should be everything you need to know about Furniture Row. Family-owned company offering high-quality home furniture at an incredible value, all with a hassle-free shopping experience. From living rooms and dining rooms to bedrooms and outdoor furniture, everything you need is under one roof. They're built on terrific selection and unbeatable value and knowledge. No pressure sales staff to help you find exactly what fits your needs and your budget. Real furniture, real value. Furniture Row. Make sure you guys are checking them out. And then you guys have heard me talk about them now for months. One of our great friends over at RefiJet. Did you guys know that you could save? Ooh, I messed that up. Did you guys know that you could refinance your auto loan? Well, with RefiJet, you could save around $150 every single month, all just a soft credit pull and zero hassle. It's lower payments, flexible terms, maybe even some cash back in your pocket from your car's equity. And look, coming right out of the holidays, I could use some extra cash back in my pocket, and I'm sure you could as well. You guys hear me talk about it all the time. The best way to support us and what we're doing here at Guerilla Sports is by showing some love to our partners. So head on over refijet.com/sports, fill out a form, see if they can't help you out, see if they can't help you save some money. refijet.com/sports. It is the faster, easier way to refinance. Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. Hey, everybody, welcome in Friday edition Guerilla Sports Off Ice. I'm Jesse Montano. We got Meghan Angley here as always, and making his off-ice debut. Hunter looks a lot older than the last time we had him on. Mark Robinson joining us. Mark, thanks for hopping on with us. Tell the folks a little bit about yourself and maybe where they've heard some of your thoughts before.
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me. So happy to be here. It's kind of surreal, honestly, because I mean, when I first started working here, I was telling you that I watched the show and I'm a fan of it. Like, I've loved seeing all the content all over social media. So to be in the chair with the microphone in front of me, it's pretty crazy, pretty unreal.
Well, we're happy to have you.
We are honored to have you.
Yeah. Listener turned host. Love it.
Listener turned hosts. Okay. So I guess I'll give my small little spiel. Grew up here in Golden, Colorado, born and raised. Went to college in California. I've always kind of wanted to pursue a career in sports broadcasting, sports journalism. I'm a Colorado sports fan through and through. Mm-hmm. So I'm super blessed and lucky to get to be sitting in this chair, covering all the teams that I love. I cover Denver sports through some other avenues as well. I work for a company called Digest Media, where I cover the Avs on a channel called Avalanche Digest. And then, of course, been doing a lot of Nugget stuff here. Yep. I mean, dipping my toes in honestly everything. I'm the Swiss Army knife, as people like to say.
That's right.
But yeah, happy to be here and super excited to talk some Avs today.
Awesome. Well, yeah, no. So again, you maybe heard him. If you're an Avalanche podcast connoisseur, you've maybe come across Mark's work in the past. And also, I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit here. Does some play-by-play for hockey as well.
I do, yeah. I'm the lead broadcaster for a North American Tier 3 hockey team in Wausau, Wisconsin. So that's very fun.
Beautiful Wausau, Wisconsin.
Beautiful Wausau, Wisconsin. Negative 10 degrees the last time I was there. Just amazing. So cold, but I mean, So fun to get to call those games. I was astounded at the level of hockey at that. I mean, Tier 3 juniors, my expectations weren't super high. It's unreal how fast they skate, how well they move the puck, how well their systems work. It's unreal. So that's been unreal experience. The travel's a lot, having to bounce back and forth between the smallest town in Wisconsin you could probably imagine.
Come up with.
But I mean, yeah, it's been so fun to go back and forth and get to call those games and also get to be here. So, I mean, if there's a job in sports, I've probably had it. Not maybe at the level that you see most people do it, but all sorts of different stuff going on.
Trying a bit of everything. Well, we're super lucky to have Mark. He shot me an email about 6 months ago, like, hey, I'd love to talk to you about some opportunities. And now here we are. So we're happy to have you, Mark. And we're glad that you've been in town here before you got to go back and finish out your season in Wisconsin. So happy to have you on. We were supposed to have you on a couple weeks ago, but some scheduling stuff, we just kind of ran up against it. So happy to have you on. Megan, I'm not going to lie. I felt a little bit like out of my routine there because it usually starts with asking how you're doing and how your week has been. So I'm already a little bit out of sorts here.
No, it's all right. I'm doing great. Eagles game day. They have a 6-game homestand coming up. So it's going to line up with the Avs being at home a ton this month. I'm really excited. And it's the TV broadcast game. So if you don't have Flow Hockey, that's all right. You can tune in to Local 3 and watch the Eagles game tonight.
Local 3, if you're here anywhere in the metro area, correct?
Yes, because my parents tried from Colorado Springs and it didn't work.
Not quite. Yeah, a little bit far. But anywhere in the Denver metro area, on local channel 3, it's the 9 News affiliate channel. You can catch not only the Colorado Eagles, but our very own Meghan Angley on the broadcast tonight. So make sure you guys are tuning in. Avs 7-game homestand, Eagles 6-game homestand, and then the Nuggets are at home for a nice little stretch here too, right?
They have 2 games at home.
2 games.
Okay, they're back away again.
Okay, all right. I thought they had a little bit of a.
They have a good one coming up. We were just talking about it yesterday because I booked a flight home.
That's right.
For more travel.
Yes. Okay,
but they've got a 4-game homestand with OKC at the end of the month coming up. That'll be exciting because OKC is OKC.
Yeah. No kidding.
It's Hockey Fights Cancer Weekend also.
Oh, for Eagles.
Yes.
Nice. Okay. Geez, we haven't had those in the NHL yet this year, right?
I feel we have.
Okay, yeah, a couple have, but Avs haven't, right?
No, I thought it did.
No. Oh, they did.
I wore
Okay,
my lavender.
Right. Oh, that's right. Yes. And because we had Hillary McNeish in here right after. Yes. Okay.
And I remember they did something with Josh Manson with all of the story with his mom and her story.
100%.
So I have a pretty solid memory of that.
Yep. Oh, Nate went on Spit and Chicklets.
He did. Yeah, I saw that.
See that. I'll have to give that a listen.
Yeah,
later.
That's probably. He always opens up a little bit with those guys.
Yeah. No. He likes talking with Biz. Well, hey, let's jump into it here. We're gonna start with talking about what happened last night, and I still am having a hard time reconciling what all we saw. The game was an offside review away from being 3-2. The period ends 8-1. Sam Girard gets in a fight. Josh Manson almost has the NHL double-double on the Gordie Howe hat trick. Nick Cousins taking runs at Sam Girard at the end of the game. Scott Wedgwood's getting involved in scrums. The power play was working. It was just pretty wild from start to finish. Megan, you and I were sitting there and we gave each other a couple like, what is going on looks last night. 12 hours, 15 hours removed. What are your thoughts?
It's a huge message after the challenges of the road trip. And when I say challenges of the road trip, I don't just mean that they don't come away with winning results in the back-to-back. I think they put up a strong effort against Tampa, to their credit. Parker Kelly even told me at morning skate, he really felt like they were in that one. And so losing Landeskog and Taves, I think, factors into this too. I think that boils over then into the dominant performance that we see from the Avs in direct response to playing for some of those guys who aren't in the lineup right now. And answering for 2 losses back to back. I think it's a position they're not used to being, and they wanted to ensure that they not only get back in the win column, but string together wins and do so decisively. And so I think that the depth was going, because the way this game starts, it felt a lot closer. And you'd look analytically, for example, it looked a lot closer than the end result showed. And that's because after that goal comes back, the offsides review, the game just completely opened up for the Avs and they never looked back. You were sitting up in the press box, you know, kind of saying to Clarkey, and they're going to keep doing this, by the way, like into the third period, they are not going to relent. And that's how it played out more or less, right? Like, I get that the shorthanded goal comes in the third period,
Right.
but, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. They're not happy about it, even though it doesn't affect the result, the score. You can see the frustration in Brock Nelson in particular. So I'm unsurprised that they have this strong of a response on the heels of the road trip. And I think it says a lot about their maturity as a group and their mental fortitude.
Mark, you were there in the building last night, and yes, Ottawa's coming off, you know, a back-to-back where they're playing in Utah, and then they come to Colorado. That's a tall order to begin with, but you know, to Megan's point about, like, you could tell that there was an emphasis on, you know, maybe not necessarily like winning emphatically by like a large margin, but doing everything right details, finish your checks. You know, Josh Manson even said, like, hey, look, I'm not usually one who wants guys to fight after a clean hit, but like, it just felt like, you know, send the message, set the tone. You were in the building, your perspective on just the fact that it felt like the Avs, the attention to detail was there.
Well, it was an interesting one in the sense that they're playing a game after, which it's crazy to say this, we're so spoiled with how they've been playing this year. The fact that 2 regulation losses is the worst stretch of the year is just unheard of. But it was an interesting position for them because they have to, like Megan was saying, bounce back after their worst stretch of hockey to date. And it was right out the gate. That Josh Manson hit and fight, it immediately set the tone. He follows it up with a goal right after, and you can feel in the building that everybody understands the Avs know what they need to do to bounce back and find their rhythm and get right back into the way that we know they've been playing this whole year. The game was, for me, reminiscent of that Edmonton game. It was so complete. Even though it was a blowout game, it didn't matter. I mean, like Megan's point, even though it's 8-1, when that shorthanded goal gets scored by Tkachuk, everybody's pissed. Everybody's upset. So just seeing them play such a complete game, it was a nice bounce back for what had gone on the road trip. It was good.
Well, and you know, Megan made mention to, like, you know, you lose Taves, you lose Landeskog, and in that Florida game where they lose Landeskog, you know, you could tell that, you know, there was a little bit of a jolt of energy kind of following that initial shock and everything. And just to the points you guys are both making, like, Josh Manson made the comment to me before the game yesterday of he said, hey, we need to bounce back. Doesn't matter that we have injuries like that. And he said that can't change the mindset of this team. And I just thought that was a weirdly profound thing to say, of like, you know, hey, you're gonna deal with different roadblocks, trials, tribulations, whatever. Your mindset has to stay the same. The goal has to stay the same. And I thought that was what we saw consistently through last night. Was didn't matter what the score was, didn't matter that Ottawa started to push, offside review, whatever. Mindset stayed the same. Maybe outside of those couple shifts where Ottawa scored the goals, but again, I love Jared Bednar's mindset. They score 2, and he said, that's enough. And I just thought that was another great quote from after the game. Megan, I don't want to get too far ahead because we're going to loop back on this, but the power play worked last night.
Yes.
Don't stare at it for too long and scare it away, but power play worked.
Yes. And I don't know if this is the portion of the show we're going to talk about the power play, because I have a lot of thoughts as to why it worked.
You know what? You just do. It's Friday. Who cares?
It's Friday.
Just do your thing.
Yeah,
we'll talk about
rules.
whatever we want to talk about.
Let's get crazy. I think, you know, then digging into this a little bit deeper and talking about it as a response to the road trip, there were aspects of their game they weren't satisfied with, to include not being able to score on the power play and just generally coming up 1 goal short. And I think then their ability to score at will in this game and then their ability to convert on the power play are significant then, because those were very specifically problems coming out of the road trip. On the power play, we learned at morning skate that there was a big meeting and it was collaborative, different voices weighing in, to include players, to include penalty kill coach Nolan Pratt, and Hackstall obviously in that conversation as well, everybody bringing ideas. What ultimately made this power play work last night was Nathan MacKinnon.
Mm-hmm.
He was deceptive. And so I've been having different conversations with you and with some players about predictability. You have the same core of players year after year. They're obviously there for a reason. They're some of the best players in the league, obviously. It's why McDavid Draisaitl does continue to work on the Edmonton power play. Yes, certainly there are tendencies and a level of predictability that exists there, but there's a point where skill just takes over. And so I think Nathan MacKinnon used a little bit of predictability to his advantage by doing things more deceptively, by doing things that would trick the opponent into thinking he's about to do something else that he ordinarily does and doing something different. And so looking at the Marty Necas power play goal, he has his puck in the high slot and he uses his body language to fake like he's going to take the shot option, and instead it's a no-look pass to Marty Necas. And it allows him to get this tough angle from the goal line and put it back door. And then later on the Brock Nelson power play goal, Necas uses a little deception to bait his guy into him at the goal line, resets out high, Makar MacKinnon give and go. And it's ultimately MacKinnon from the left circle where he ordinarily goes for a shot option, a one-timer, and instead finds the cross-slot seam to Nelson opposite him. This is where Nelson's important in the power play conversation too, because he's been a really complimentary, high-skill player that can receive these passes, anticipate these passes, and also has a really great shot because it's a Nelson one-timer that beats the goaltender. And I think that his shot selection deserves a little bit of credit in this game specifically. And that's just on the power play, but there's also deception in some of the goals 5v5, like the Cale Makar goal. And so that's where like scoring at will was a part of this too. Like Nathan MacKinnon, I don't have criticisms of his game this season. It's not to say there's anything that he should have been doing differently through this point, but I think he unlocked how he can use what players expect him to do to his advantage because he has so many tools in his toolkit. It's as if he has eyes on the back of his head sometimes in his ability to find his teammates. And I think he really leaned into that last night. And it also counted on the chemistry between his teammates. So when Jared Bednar said, it's going to take everybody buying in on the power play to get it to work, it was certainly true. And so I think that is why there were results on the power play last night. And I found it interesting that in postgame, a couple of guys reiterated they didn't feel process-wise anything was too different about the power play. It wasn't this sudden revelation where they tried something groundbreaking and new. It just was Nathan MacKinnon believing in himself.
So, do you know where I'm going to go with this? Something you and I talked about yesterday. Megan, you and I had a conversation earlier this week when we were driving up to Loveland about the power play and Nathan MacKinnon's role in the success of that power play. And look, I don't need to go too far down this road, but Mark and I were talking yesterday about whoever's coaching the power play, it doesn't really matter for the first unit. For that top unit success. Now, look, if they want to change up some of the personnel and, put different guys on the wall or whatever, like that's something the coaching staff can do. But for the most part, the unit that Nathan MacKinnon is on for the power play, it's going to go as Nathan MacKinnon does for that power play. He's kind of the one that directs traffic out there. And as Megan just pointed out, it all kind of runs through him. The success of it runs through him. So where I'm going with this, Mark, is, you and I talked yesterday about like, it doesn't really matter what Hackstall wants to do, what Bednar wants to do. If Nathan MacKinnon's going, that's going to open up everyone else. That's going to draw attention to him, et cetera, et cetera. Everything that Megan just ran through. Watching that power play yesterday, it felt like Nathan MacKinnon was more of a threat. And I think that opened up so many of the options that Megan was talking about.
Well, the system of the power play works around MacKinnon. Everybody's shifting, everybody's rotating around where he is, where he has the puck, the play that he's going to make, because to some of Megan's points, he's so deceptive. He's so unpredictable. I think he actually does have eyes in the back. Yes. I think he really does. Yeah. Like somebody should look back there and make sure, because
fair point.
Yeah,
some of the plays that he makes, his hockey IQ, which I know this is just beating a dead horse. Everybody knows he's one of the best players in the world. He's unreal at what he does, but the system works around him. And what I loved about the power play last night, which I always hammer this point, and it could be a hot take, so to say, I think their power play gets too complicated most of the time.
Yes.
The other conversation we were having upstairs yesterday, it's always one too many passes. I can close my eyes and picture so many power play scenarios where it's a beautiful play being developed, a beautiful system, a pass up top, a feed down low. You see a open lane for a one-timer or for a shot up top from, McHale or Taves, whoever it might be, and you're waiting, you're like, oh, this is going to be the shot. It's going to happen right here. And then they hold, stall, and pass. And then the whole entire momentum of the power play dies.
It's the overthinking, overcomplicating. Megan, I can't remember, you used an analogy a couple weeks ago, and it may have been that you were overhearing something of like it almost feels like they're trying to embarrass the opponent on the power play, where it's like you're walking right down the slot, you got a clean look, and it's almost like this, oh, everyone thinks I'm going to shoot it because 99% of the time you would shoot this, but I'm going to make one more pass for the empty net, slam dunkaroo, easy goal. Puck gets deflected, cleared, gone, and now you have to reset up all over again. And yeah, I feel like the times where it's the most effective is when they, instead of making that one extra little pass, Brock Nelson hammers the one-timer instead of trying to make a one-time slap pass to the back door. It's like, no, just put that towards the net, make yourself a shooting threat, make the defenders and the goaltender respect the fact that you might shoot this puck. I also want to pause a second here to talk about Brock Nelson, who 30 goal pace, who needs it? I'm on a 40 goal pace now, and picks up a power play goal last night. I think we had a comment that said it, like, he's been huge for that top unit, giving them that Mikko one-timer option back on the right side.
Yeah, I think he has a better shot option than he gave himself credit for. So I think he's generally shooting more than he was earlier in the season. And it's giving them more options as a threat from that side of the ice. And I think that before, especially with the way his line was constructed, everyone had kind of their primary strength, but they also did these other things well. And so I think he looked at some of the options on his line like, well, that guy's probably the better shot option. So I'm going to pass to him, defer to that pass. And I think Brock Nelson recognizes that he's versatility in his game, that he can lean on all of these things, take the shot option when he has it. And I look at, he's at the scene of the crime when good things are happening for the Avs, even going back to Mark's point about setting the tone with that, not just the Josh Manson fight, but then the Josh Manson goal, he wins a draw. And this unfolds so quickly after the draw too, with Colton getting a touch back for Manson, that I think we take for granted the way in which Brock Nelson plays such a complete game. And it's why I'm unsurprised with the results. It's finally translating, because I think he's leaning into some of the other things that he does well on the offensive side of the puck. And it makes so much sense to me. He's also, in his body language, he maybe doesn't seem like he has the intensity of a competitor like Nathan MacKinnon, but he does. And that's the other thing that I think gets underestimated about Brock Nelson. And that's why later in this game, when the shorthanded goal is scored, no one is angrier than Brock Nelson, because he's the one who falls and this puck is coming back the other way. He takes a lot of pride in his game. And so I think that's lining up with the confidence of what he's doing right now. And I love Jared Bednar's postgame of, everyone had a lot of opinions when this signing came through this summer.
I was about to bring that up. I was sitting here waiting to talk about that. That was the perfect thing for him to say to round out not just what he did last night, but just the conversation in general around, honestly, a lot of people still not being thrilled with that signing, whether it's the number that we got him at or the assets that we had to give up in return. I mean, Callum Ritchie's obviously a really strong prospect, doing really well over on the island right now. But like last night's game specifically, if that doesn't show you that, Bednar also said it, Brock Nelson might, if that doesn't show you that he might be one of the best 2Cs in the league, I don't know what else you want him to do. Well, you want him to get a Gordie Howe hat trick too?
Right.
Well, he might.
And Scott Wedgwood said, I'd put him as, I'd rank him as high as you possibly can for a second line center without putting him above your first line center. Like, that's what I think of Brock Nelson.
He's a first line center on another team.
Absolutely.
Most
Nathan
other teams.
MacKinnon plays here. That's the only thing.
Right. And Mark, I was gonna, because Megan and I have made our thoughts very clear on it. But if the national kind of perception last week when the Team USA rosters are put out for the Olympics, there was a lot of folks that were like, wow, I can't believe Brock Nelson made it. anybody in Colorado who's been watching the Avs this year is not surprised that Brock Nelson made it. I just kind of wanted your take on not even necessarily what Brock Nelson has done, because I think we're all kind of in agreement there, but just your reaction to kind of that public perception of people being like, what is this guy doing on the team?
What's Grandpa doing?
Right. And like, yeah, he's 34 and he's lighting it up.
It reminds me of that picture. It's like my grandpa has this ancient relic of a hockey player from the 1800s, and it's just the black and white picture of Brock Nelson at the Four Nations, Four Nations face-off.
It's Megan and I were talking about that last night. We think that he's unfairly criticized for his age because of that photo.
Yes.
That specific photo.
It was overexposed. They did him so dirty.
But to your point on that whole topic with Team USA, I do want to start by saying I think there were some players, which I'm not saying Brock Nelson would be the player that gets swapped for some of these names, but I do think there were some players that, I don't know if snubbed is the right word, but I think there were some guys that deserved a spot on this roster that didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard for me to say this, but Jason Robertson, a guy that I think 100% deserved a spot on this Team USA roster. And there's a few more in kind of that mix of whether or not, and
Caulfield.
Yes, exactly. And it's honestly, with all these Olympic rosters, I was listening to something last night just about how deep these teams are and how strong. I mean, Celebrini on line 4 for Team Canada. Get out of here.
Well, the best one, sorry to cut you off, but like we should do it as a show here at some point before the Olympics of what would Canada's B team look like at the Olympics.
That's a fun idea.
Because I'll bet you it'd be pretty good.
Well, they've got Connor Bedard not even on the team, and he's before he got injured, he's been lighting it up in Chicago.
Know who the other defenseman was that I was a little surprised, and I didn't mention it?
Yes.
Chychrun.
Oh, yeah.
So like you could have Matthew Schaefer and Jacob Chychrun in your top 4 on Canada's B team, and not bad.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying.
Anyways, back to Brock Nelson.
Yes. Yeah.
To Megan's point a little bit ago, one of the things I like the most about Brock Nelson is watching him play off the puck. The way that he covers the ice, the way that he's rotating in the system offensively, his forecheck is always so strong. He brings so much more than just his offensive abilities, his ability to come right down the middle and score in really tight lanes, and just his style of play. Off the puck and the way that he plays just in the system in general, his game is so well rounded out. It's not just his scoring that's so impressive about him. That's what makes him such a threat. And that's why he's no question going to be a huge piece to the Team USA roster. He was so good on the Four Nations team. It's a no-brainer. And I know people will probably say, well, of course you guys are going to say he's a no-brainer pick. He's on the Avs. You have a bias, but I really think if you unbiasedly look at this roster, he's a major difference maker.
And I think to the point you just made, like, I think the role that he ends up playing is going to end up being what's really telling about that. And if he's, if he keeps playing even in the realm of what he's done for the last month, like he's going to play a big role for Team USA as deep as that team is.
Yeah, because he does more than just provide goal scoring.
Yep.
And so I think in that tournament where they have other goal scorers represented on Team USA, though they certainly won't deny any goal support they can get from him, they're going to require some of his play away from the puck, like Mark is talking about. I've talked about how I think he is one of the best defensive sticks on the team outside of Devon Taves. And so I think that what he does starting in his own end has helped the Avs defensively more than he's gotten credit for, especially earlier this year. And it's important to note, like his body of work, right? Multi-time 30 goal scorer, obviously in that 20 goal scorer category, now multi-time. This is some of his best hockey he's played. And that's worth noting, at 34, this is some of his best hockey. So yeah, he's got this body of work that's impressive, but he's going into this tournament playing his best hockey. Confidence is high. So that's significant and also a part of the conversation.
Absolutely.
Something else that's cool. Yeah. I know this isn't like the biggest deal ever, but I think it's subtly worth noting. These last few weeks, all this stuff is happening while simultaneously they slapped an A on his sweater, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I do think that's not insignificant because Gabe goes out, Taves goes out. Those are your, obviously your captain. Taves is usually the first, alternate captain. And with both those guys out, I don't think it's that insignificant that there's a lot, that could have gone to a guy like Josh Manson, who's been with the team for a long time. A guy like Sam Girard, who's, been here since the doldrums of when this team wasn't good. Like, there's a lot of guys who I think are leaders in that room. And so I don't think it's insignificant that Brock Nelson is the guy who is looked at as one of those.
Well, he has the leadership experience, obviously, with all his years with the C in on the island. It's no surprise that the leadership qualities are recognized, and it just adds to the type of player that he is. And it just goes back to the conversation of which we can go over and over and over with saying this, so I'm not going to dive too deep into it. He adds so much value on and off the ice, whether it's in the locker room, on the ice, the way that he plays. Such great work by the front office having him on this team. And I can't wait to see what he does in the Olympics as well.
Yeah.
Just adding to that too, what he brings to the leadership core is a little different from what's represented. And I don't think this comes across in interviews, but he's a little mischievous. And he's had, maybe some little pranks on his teammates. Parker Kelly got some of it at practice a little bit ago.
That was Brock?
I don't have proof, but I'm pretty sure it was.
I don't even know the story.
Because Brock also had a B. Nelson on his stall with the tape. And I think it was to redirect suspicion as to who did it, because Ross Colton was getting blamed for it. And Ross Colton was kind of glancing. Anyways, I think it was Brock Nelson. But when I asked Parker Kelly about Brock Nelson as a leader, he said he's comedic relief. And I was really surprised to learn that.
Yeah.
But I remember the levity that Mikko Rantanen brought to the locker room and how that kind of balanced out the leadership core. I think that we might not get to see it, but I think behind the scenes, Brock Nelson adds a little bit more levity and, to Parker Kelly's point, comedic relief than we realize.
He seems like the type of guy that knows when to immediately flip the switch when it's not the time for comedic relief. Like, I bet you he can just like that. Like, it's reminiscent of Alexander Barkov. I've heard a lot of people talk about how he is just smile on his face, Mr. Vibes all the time. But when you're in a position, say, for example, you're up 3-0 in the Stanley Cup championship series and you drop 3 straight, I feel like the way Nelson's leadership, which I'm not in the room as much, I don't see the behind the scenes of it, but I get the vibe that he offers that comedic aspect, which can really bring a room together and can really help guys gel. And we know how close this team is, but I bet you he can flip that switch totally, like nobody's business.
Totally.
It sounds like specifically to what Parker was saying is he can deliver like a piece of criticism in a funny way. So you're more receptive to it in that way. And I think that's a really unique quality in a leader, because
For sure.
You might need to issue a criticism and it can be hard to give that feedback to somebody. But if you can do it in kind of a funny way, maybe even self-deprecating way, it's a little easier to hear sometimes.
All right, let's move on from the game from last night, because we are going to circle back, and just because we've gotten so many questions about the power play and what has kept it from working well, I do want to circle back to, well, that all went well last night. What is it that's kept it from happening consistently? So I want to circle back to that. And then we are going to get into the Victor Olofsson conversation, who, Megan, I think you and I see it pretty similarly. And I think it's different than how some other people are looking at things. So I want to circle back on both of those. I do want to park a few minutes here because I think it's really cool, and I think fans should be excited. The Avs are playing in the 2027 NHL Winter Classic, and that's not insignificant. As much as I know people are starting to wane a little bit on their enthusiasm of the outdoor games, for me, the Winter Classic is still the marquee event for the regular season for the NHL. And I talked with Josh about it yesterday, and he was saying, like, I'm really hopeful. Like, we're gonna be in Salt Lake City in January. Like, it should be cold. Hopefully, it's snowing a little bit. Like, and I had a couple people already yesterday, like, well, doesn't it feel like they're trying to force this mountain rivalry? It's like, who cares? For the first time ever, the Avs have a natural geographical rival who's, similar climate. I think the NHL, not that you should try to force anything, but like, I do think this should be a rivalry that the league is looking forward to. I think Utah continues to be on the up. And I think it should be 2 really good teams next year in similar cities. Avs fans have taken some issue with Utah and their fans and the fact that they, we're going back and forth on the Yeti, the Mammoth. I think this is a fun rivalry. And there is something, and Megan, you and I have talked about this for years. Something about these two teams, they do not like each other. I don't know why. I don't know what happened 8 years ago when they were in Arizona. Every time those two teams played, it got nasty, it got physical, and it is carried over to Utah. And Cale Makar, Megan, even referred to it as it's a great rivalry, so it should be fun.
Yeah, I think like the last time these two teams played each other, that 1-0 game, Sam Girard breakaway goal, the only thing, they don't have a Logan Cooley in this game. And so I think some of the young talent between like Dylan Guenther and I'll put Clayton Keller in that category. I think he's becoming a more experienced player in that league to be talking about him as a young up-and-coming guy. But similarly, then Logan Cooley, a part of that, makes them super fun. I think they're pretty balanced, too, with the support they're getting from guys like Nick Schmaltz. So anyways, where I'm going with this is I think they are a really evenly matched opponent to make this an interesting outdoor game between the teams. And to your point, I think the way that Utah plays really foils the Avs transition games at times and can kind of cause some stoppage through the neutral zone, slow them down. And it can be frustrating and low event at times. And maybe that's where people are like, how is this a rivalry? But I think that good hockey can be low event hockey sometimes because of how well they are countering one another. And so I'm personally excited for it. And I've been wanting to root for Utah to finally enter the conversation more seriously for years. And I think they're in this room. It's finally here.
It's been a rivalry between two teams that don't like each other, while one has been very, very good and the other has kind of been in the doldrums of the standing. So yeah, it's going to be nice. Mark, where were you when Nathan MacKinnon threw that helmet at Connor Garland? Jeez Louise, I don't know why. I was wanting to say Matthias Michelli the whole time, and I was like, that's not who he threw the helmet at. Where were you when Connor Garland had his own helmet thrown at his face?
I don't have a vivid recollection of being like somewhere watching that game, but my God, that is hilarious.
It's
like,
one of my favorite Nate highlights to this day, and Nate does a lot of cool shit.
Seeing that emotion, like, oh, it's hilarious. He throws the helmet, kind of gives that face like, oh yeah, you ready? I'm coming. It reminds me of the time, I don't remember who it was, but it was either last season or 2 seasons ago. He laid a huge hit on a player on the Sharks, like in the neutral zone.
Yeah.
And he turned around and just totally big dogged him, like looked down at him like, oh yeah, welcome to the league, dude. But I don't remember where I was or when that happened, but every time that video pops up on any sort of social media, I'll always smile at it. It's hilarious.
And again, like it's like that's one of the moments, but like these guys get into it a lot.
Oh,
yeah, the Nathan MacKinnon flipping someone off was in Colorado, Arizona.
Yes.
I'm glad you brought that rivalry, so to say, up, because I think that gets swept under the rug a little bit because the franchise switched. It feels like a new team because they're in a new place, they're in a new arena, they're in a new city, new ownership, blah, 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 blah. But it's still the same players and it's still the same tension between the two teams. And I completely agree. There's this underlying hatred between specifically Arizona. Like I remember before the switch happened, when I would turn on the Avs and it was against Arizona, I'd get a little heated inside. I'd be like, oh, this frickin' team. I swear to God, if they somehow squeak by us, like,
and Avs fans, sorry to cut you off, traveled really well to Arizona. So there was like Coyotes fans didn't like Avs fans because they would be very well represented in Arizona buildings. And so like there has been this weird underlying rivalry that just hasn't been able to take off because
Arizona was struggling for a long time. So I think that's a great point. They're finally on a more similar playing field.
And to a great point you just made, Avs fans are going to travel so well to this game.
Yeah.
It is going to be filled with Avs faithful. I mean, it's a very quick flight, 8-hour drive if you want to get in the car, road trip. And who doesn't want to go to Utah for a winter classic? Make a trip out of it. Book some ski days, get like an Airbnb. That's what I want to do.
I had never been to Salt Lake until last year when they moved there and we went for the first couple games, or was that 2 years ago now? Whatever.
No,
it
I
is.
think it was last year,
right?
I think it was last year. Because they only had one season as just the Utah Hockey Club.
That's right.
And that was last year.
Yep. But no, Salt Lake's a great little city. There's a lot to see and do, and like the venue looks awesome.
University of Utah is a phenomenal campus.
Great venue.
Really good stadium. Some people are saying.
Have you ever been to a game there?
I have not. No.
Because there was a bunch of us in the chat saying, Corey was saying like, I've been looking for a reason to go here. Sorry, I cut you off again.
No, you're good. Some people like. There's been a lot of buzz about really cool, great matchup. Should be at Folsom Field, which obviously there's an argument to be made, but similar stadium, similar sort of a vibe. And I think putting it in Utah at Rice Eccles Stadium, I think is what it's called. I honestly I think that's almost cooler just for Utah and all the progress that they've made. Great to have the Avs in the game. They are so deserving of a Winter Classic. I've been a big proponent of that for years, but to give this kind of, it's just another box to check off for Utah making all these. I mean,
it's a hat tip to the new owner.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
they came in and like that was what that organization needed, was fresh ownership, people that were invested in the team, people that were invested in the success of the group. And so, I'm with, like, I think Colorado's hosted too. And they were technically the home team in the Lake Tahoe one as well. So they were due for a road game here. And I'm excited. I've been to outdoor games at football venues and at baseball venues. I think the sight lines on the football venues are better. And I've heard that this stadium in particular in Utah is kind of known for their sight lines.
And since it's officially a Winter Classic, they should do outfits, right? When they show up to the game. Because I feel like they've not done that before, if I'm not mistaken.
For the stadium series stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think they get to do a fun theme, and that's what I'm most excited about.
Well, and we're gonna get, vintage style, throwback style jerseys, and I'm just a proponent of, I think stuff like that, not because I care a great deal, like I think that is good for marketing, for your brand. I think it's good to have new jerseys, new merch, stuff like that for fans to engage in and wear around town and all that stuff. So I'm excited. Like I think it's going to be cool. And I did have someone throw out that these two franchises should dig deep into their history and do a Nordiques versus Jets kind of theme. The Winnipeg Jets being a current team in the NHL does kind of throw a little bit of a wrinkle into that. But
what if they do Winnipeg Jets better than the Winnipeg Jets?
Which I think there's a real possibility they just might.
They should avoid this.
I've seen a bunch of people saying that they hope that the Avs do something to bring back the Yeti foot as a little bit of a troll for the fact that Utah tried to name their team the Yeti and the Cooler Company blocked it. So I don't know. I think that'd be kind of a fun troll, but I think it's going to be really interesting. And again, we're going to get a cool vintage look for the Avs, and I think that's awesome.
I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. That's honestly what I'm most excited for, is the sweaters. Whatever they cook up is going to be just, there's so many cool Avs sweaters and jerseys over the years. You look at like their other Stadium Series ones, those awesome Nordiques jerseys with the white and maroon colorway, or like the one with just the C right on the front and like the white. There's so many cool ones. So there's a lot of potential for something awesome.
I'm excited. And a fun theme.
And fun outfits. I can't wait to see their fun little outfits.
Fun outfits. Okay, let's get into this stuff here. Let's circle back on the power play and just talk. Again, we don't have to spend a ton of time here because we did talk about what we saw that drew success last night. All right, we've got to go to the super chat right away. I wasn't going to, but they control them by bringing the Colorado Mammoth with them.
They come out in lacrosse jerseys.
Yes. Oh, that would be so good.
Vaguely, that's really good.
Unbelievable. They should do that, where the Colorado Mammoth lacrosse jerseys getting off the bus.
Oh, that's awesome.
That would be great. I would love that. Great call, Vaguely. I owe you a text back.
I do too.
Really? Yes. Double text coming your way, Vaguely. Power play. Again, like I said, we discussed last night, we discussed the power play from last night and what it did to draw success. And Megan, we'll start with you. Just they haven't found consistency. Like we've seen games, we've seen periods, we've seen individual power plays where they've looked dangerous and they've moved the puck like we saw puck movement last night. It just seems, and I can't remember where you and I were talking about it recently, but you said like they do it and then they stray away from it so quickly. They like, it's almost like they can't even wait long enough to see what they did well before they're moving away from it. From your perspective, and like I said, we could do an entire pod on this, but just kind of broad strokes, what has it been in your eyes that's kept them from being able to find that consistency?
I think it's been a little bit of a pride and stubbornness around what has brought them success on the power play in the past. And going into each power play, then I want to try this, and being a little bit too set on it and trying to force it too harshly. And so sometimes it would be a really perfect passing play, seam pass, seam pass, seam pass. And to your guys' points, one pass too many, one step too many. And I think they embraced being ready to pivot a little bit when the original plan A of like maybe the McKinnon one-timer from the left circle was not going to make the most sense. One, by simplifying it, by being a step fewer, and being more open to different options when the plan A wouldn't go. And I can understand wanting to have like a set idea of how you'd like this to go, and then being quickly met with the possibility that it's not going to unfold this way, starting with zone entry, because I think that Jack O'Shawn with the Eagles said something super interesting the other day, how the power play is not supposed to be easy. And so gaining the zone, like it's not going to just happen cleanly. You're going to have to fight to establish the zone first and foremost. And then from there, since a little bit of time has been taken, whether you're skating the puck in and having to battle to protect it before you get the chance to cycle, I think they're so used to wanting to immediately cycle the puck that they're trying to get passes off quickly upon getting in the zone. And it's not safe to do so yet. I think they have to battle for positioning a little bit first and foremost, then a cycle, and it has to unfold quickly after that point, not then a pass too many from that point. And so I think that's where McKinnon being ready to embrace his ability to be the deceptive one is what served him the most. Because I think, there's like, he has a lot of success with just using the one-timer as an example here. Right. I don't even think McKinnon has deferred to that as much this season as he has been stubborn about it in years past. But I think there's this recognition of it doesn't have to be one way. Because I get that in thinking of it in that way, it could overcomplicate things way too quickly. And so in saying this, I want to say keeping the options open, but still keeping it simple. And I know those sound like they're almost counter to each other. Right. Is what I think brought them success. And so that's where leaning on his teammates too, like McKinnon is still the key to everything working on the power play, but it also requires him leaning on his teammates as those additional options that can be open to him. And I think that is what allowed them to incorporate the deception and have it work then. Cause like the no look pass to Marty Netchus for the goal line, tough angle, I think you called it one pass slapper, actually did work last night. So what I'm saying is like the really high skill plays can still work as long as they're not one step too many. And you're open to it maybe not going according to plan, what you drew up when you were going to the face off.
All right. I love that you just said that. Because Mark, I feel like exactly what Megan just said there at the end. It feels like sometimes it's like, no, this should work. Keep doing it. Like this is what it's, and it's just, maybe I don't want to say lack of ability, a lack of willingness to change when something's not working.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, which I said this earlier in the show, but the biggest takeaway from all the power play tongue twister, power play struggles that we've had this year is we don't have a bad power play. We just take one too many steps. I think that the way that we play 5-on-5 hockey is very by the book, dominant, really good system. Everything looks fluid, smooth, and we have some of the prettiest plays of the league so far this year. But as soon as we get that man advantage, we try to get all pretty and glamorous, and we try to do all these
glamorous.
I love it used in this context.
We try to get all, I'll say it again, glamorous and do all these cool things. And don't get me wrong, that works for some teams. Some teams can have a glamorous, cool power play where they get to have that extra pass and they get to make that really cool slam dunkaroo, no looker, goalie completely on the other side of the crease, highlight reel goal. We don't thrive in that system as far as the power play goes. We have to do the same thing that we do on 5-on-5, just take advantage of the fact that there's one skater missing from the other team. My favorite power play goal last night was the McKinnon feed. I bet that felt good.
Yeah, sorry about that.
My favorite power play goal last night was the McKinnon feed down to Natchez when he ripped it super short side.
Yeah.
And what I liked about it was predictable. I was at the game with my brother. I kid you not. I wouldn't lie about this. I literally, McKinnon had the puck at the top of the line. I looked at him. I go, pass down to Natchez one time or he's going to score. And it happened.
Yeah.
It's, if you just go back to the fundamentals of how the system works, do the easier plays, do the stuff that you know will work. Sometimes it's probably going to get saved. Sometimes you might miss a little bit
out of
wide.
your own way.
Exactly. Get out. I love that. Get out of your own way. When you do that, it works so much better. And it's a lethal power play. What I love about this whole conversation, though, we had this conversation yesterday upstairs. The best part about this is they get to figure out struggles on the power play 32-4-7.
Yeah.
It's not like they're middle of the pack struggling in the league and the power play is the reason for that.
Costing them all these points.
They get to figure out how to fix their power play with a sizable gap for first place in the league, which is awesome.
It's a great call out. And Megan, you and I talked about that, I think on Monday, of like power play's not working, but luckily, thankfully for them, whatever word you want to use, like it really hasn't cost them a ton. And you just want to make sure that you make those corrections before it like catches up with you at the worst time.
Yeah. I think too, to Mark's point, the glamorous power plays are typically one-dimensional parts of the team. Like it doesn't translate to 5v5 success. Just looking at Dallas's unsustainably good power play, they then came to rely on that as a source of their offense later in the playoffs, and they struggled. They couldn't find goal support outside of that power play. And so I think it's good to be working backwards in this way, because I think it's such a good point that what brings them success 5v5 is exactly what they need to be thinking of on the power play. Because I do think there was maybe this alternative mindset of Harlem Globetrotters, that's the power play, and then we do the hard work, we get ugly 5v5, where there's a willingness to, because I still think it's super high skilled, especially like what the top six is doing. Yeah. But when I look at McKinnon battling for pucks below the goal line 5v5, and that helps to win pucks back, and then they get to set up the pretty passing play, that's why it's working 5v5. I think that translating then what brings them success 5v5 is the way to uncomplicate it on the power play. And that's going to mean then, instead of getting glamorous, you get a little ugly. And I just mean you're fighting for pucks, protecting pucks, and you're not over complicating it in search of the glamorous play. I just love this word. And then, what you come away with is a really good power play. So you could talk about it as being glamorous after. It just, the process doesn't have to be glamorous.
Yeah. Let the result of it be glamorous. Okay. And then let's round things out here. And Megan, I'm gonna go to you again to start here, because I know you have dug into this a bit on Victor Olofsson, right? We've gotten a lot of questions. What's going on? He's not scoring. Is he the new Tomas Tatar? The production maybe hasn't been quite where you've wanted it to be. Let's say in the last 6 weeks for a guy like Victor Olofsson. But when you consider when the Avs picked him up, what you're paying, and what he's giving you away from the puck, I don't, I don't have a huge issue with what Victor Olofsson's giving the Avs right now. Would I like to see a little bit more production? Of course. But people hear me say it all the time. If your depth guys were scoring at the same rate as your top guys, well, then they're not your depth guys. They're your top guys. And I think Victor Olofsson, a little bit streaky here. Would like to see him find the back of the net, but I just don't think it's as bad of a picture as what some people out there are painting.
No, I think his contract respective to his play is incredibly important here. 1 year, 1.575. Now that's not nothing. And so you look at 7 goals, 12 assists, 19 points in 43 games. I would say that is on par with third line production. The money is right where I'd want to see you pay a third liner. And what makes it interesting is I've seen this raised as a greater issue that the Avs need to address around the deadline. And I'm looking at what the Avs third line was in 2022. And it wasn't even set in stone through the playoffs. We saw Burakovsky there. We saw Nico Sturm on the third line, and Alex Newhook get opportunity there as well. And I would take Victor Olofsson over those players. Maybe not Burakovsky, but there's similarities between what Burakovsky is and Victor Olofsson. There's so much more trust, though, and experience in what Olofsson is compared to like an Alex Newhook in that case, who was on such a short leash in the playoffs. And then similarly, offensively, he can impact the game more than Nico Sturm, for example. That's where the Burakovsky comparable is more similar. But different from Burakovsky, I think that Victor Olofsson is more consistent in the other aspects of his game. That's where I think he's earned a lot of trust with the Avs. He is more engaged on the forecheck than he gets credit for. It's maybe because, you know, compared to the efficacy of other forecheckers, he's not the heaviest player on the team, but he's willing to engage in those battles. And the high skill component too has worked when he's played with Ross Colton. Like, I think that right before Ross Colton got elevated in the lineup, this is equally part of the conversation. Ross Colton is another streaky player who kind of finds his success in bunches too. I actually think Drury, Colton, and Olofsson were finding a little bit of a rhythm. And it's in the things that they're doing that aren't necessarily offensive. So yeah, I think he can be more of an offensive impact than we've seen, but where the money and the production is kind of right where I'd expect it to be. And his game isn't dipping below that in the other ways. I am still optimistic that he can give more than we've seen. And I have no issue though with what we've seen so far. I just believe in him to provide more.
Well, and so Mark, you know, one of the things that was talked about a lot with folks when the Avs signed Victor Olofsson was, yeah, he'll score goals for you, but he's terrible in his own end, horrible along the wall. Yeah, last year in Vegas was kind of an outlier for him. And to Megan's point, yes, maybe you'd like to see more production from, but like Victor Olofsson is not standing out in a glaring way of like, oh my gosh, you can't put that guy on the ice when you're in your own defensive zone. He just can't hang. Like I think he's almost kind of been the opposite of what people were like worried about, of like just wants to put up numbers, doesn't care about his own end. I think he's taking care of a lot of things 200 feet, and maybe playing a more complete game is why he's not just firing pucks to the net constantly.
Yeah, I really liked Megan's point in that there's a lot of potential with the way that he plays and the way that he works so well on that third line. He pairs really well with Drury up the middle and Kelly on the other side. But with that in mind, we're still not seeing negative aspects of his game. And on that topic as well, he's not, like, if you look at his career, he's not having a generationally bad year comparatively to what he's done in the past. Last year, he had 29 points on the season. He's at 19 right now. He had a 49 and a 40-point year with Buffalo back in 2022 and then 2023. He's on pace to be right around that same mark. And like Megan said, if we start to see some of this production pump up a little bit, which we know he's capable of, because when that third line is going, they're rolling. They're a very dominant line, probably a second line on some other teams in the NHL. I think that it's just, I lost my train of thought.
Well, you're just saying like he's in that production range from where he's normally at. And if you can start to get a little bit of uptick on that production on that third line there, then yeah, you're very much right in the range of where he usually finishes. Yeah.
So I don't think the way that he plays is worrisome, because another point that you made that I think really fits this topic, if your depth guys are top of your scoring, then they're not really your depth guys. Third line wingers play a lot more important of a role than scoring goals every game. That's why we have McKinnon and Natchez, and that's why we have Makar, who can play such a two-way style of defense that we know makes him the best defenseman in the league. Olofsson is so much more than just offensive productivity. And he's, like I said, he's not even that far down the list of points. He's a +1 this year, he's had some solid offensive games. He had that hat trick night with 5 points early in the season. He's 11th on the team in points, which is not concerning by any means.
Well, and he's He's literally just on pace for just under this. So this is me assuming, hey, you get a little bit of an uptick in that production. If I told you at the beginning of the season, hey, you're going to have a third line winger that's going to score 15 goals and put up 40 points. I don't
Sign me up.
I don't think anybody would be upset about that. And that's what he's on pace for right now.
And he's not a liability in his own end. He's engaged. He's bought in. He works hard. That all sounds really great to me. I think, too, I want to validate some of the concern around Victor Olofsson, but I don't think it has much to do with Victor Olofsson. I think the concern is the construction of the third line in the playoffs, because in the 2022 example I provided, JT Compher is very important in recognizing why that third line worked. And so I think the concern is, do they have the 3C that can bring the utility, the clutch gene that JT Compher did, then to kind of balance out the rest? And I look at like what Florida's third line was in these last playoffs with Lundell and Marchand and Luostarinen. And I do think it's worth noting that that would be a tough matchup line by line as it's currently constructed. So I could see value in talking about a 3C, and this isn't a sideswipe at Drury. I loved him when he was on a line with OC and Kelly in the playoffs last year. Everyone has a role to play. And so I think that you would get my attention, but it has very little to do with Olofsson not bringing enough. I think it just adds emphasis to what might be needed more in a 3C role. And maybe this is offset by Olofsson having an uptick in production, because I do think that it's going to be a part of it in some way. But this has less to do with Olofsson and more to do with the third line in my eyes.
I do think 3C is the one area where Chris McFarland and the Colorado Avalanche front office are going to be looking to upgrade. You and I have talked about it, Megan. I think it's going to be like, I think they're going to take a swing with that one and see if they can't get an upgrade for a guy that's like a bubble 2C, maybe on an expiring deal or something like that. That's going to do it for us here today. We got another show coming in about 10 minutes. Big Al and CJ are going to be talking Buffs, Broncos, all things football coming your guys' way. Megan, Mark, any final thoughts before we sign off for today? Final thought?
Thanks again for having me on. It was a glamorous show today.
Thank you so much
had
for
an absolute
using that
blast.
word. Oh, I love it.
Thank you for coming on. When you're back in town, because I know you're getting ready to head back to Wisconsin, we'll have you back. No doubt about it.
First of many, hopefully.
Yes,
fingers crossed.
Absolutely. That's gonna do it here, folks. I'm Jesse Montano. We got Meghan Angley, Mark Robinson. Massive shout out to Ashley, not just for running this show, but for kind of running the show here behind the scenes for us. For running the show. Ashley behind the glass today. Big shout out to her. That's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Game tomorrow. These two will be there bringing you guys coverage. Shoot, I'm missing the next gen game. Darn it. Darn it, you guys. I guess hates children. I guess you guys will just have to wait to hear from me till Monday. But they've got you covered for tomorrow from the game. We'll be back at it on Monday with another pod. Stay warm, drive safe, all that good stuff. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.